There you go.
All
We
right.
are live.
In 3, 2, 1. All right, Turtle Boy, we made a trade. We upgraded. We got rid of that load, Tom Shattuck. Actually, he abandoned us. I don't know where he went. I think he joined the Moors of Rhode Island. He's got other things going on now. Yeah, he's going to be the first white guy in the Moors, in the rise of the Moors. He's ready to head to Maine and shoot stuff. But we upgraded. We got Alice Shattuck here today. Say hi to Alex, Turtle Boy.
Hey, Alice, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Are
Good,
you
thanks.
named after someone else? It's kind of it's kind of an old-fashioned name. I like it. I like old-fashioned names.
My parents kind of like the name from the Honeymooners, actually.
Oh, God, I was going to guess. Most famous for what? Being told by her husband that he was going to knock her to the moon. You think he could do that today? Have the Honeymooners where Jackie Gleason says he was going to punch his wife in the face if she kept yapping at him. But that was a great show by a great American legend.
Jerry, you couldn't have the show Friends today. You couldn't have a show about 6 white people in New York. Never mind a show about domestic violence jokes.
That's a good point. I saw someone when they had the little reunion, someone saying they could never do this today. And I'm like, what did they say offensive? Was it like All in the Family or, the Jeffersons? Were they saying offensive things? And it was like, no, they just didn't have any Asians.
Yes, exactly.
None of them were gay. So
they didn't talk about social justice on their show.
So today, if you had Friends, you remember Zoom? Is Zoom gone, right? The show Zoom, it was on,
Oh, it was on PBS, right?
That was the first show that celebrated diversity. It was young kids, I think from Boston. I think it was filmed in Boston, but every day it'd be, one white kid, one Asian kid, one black kid, and then a fat kid and a skinny kid and a blonde. And it was obvious. It was all about identity politics. I guess it was ahead of its time. This was 30 years ago, maybe. And, they definitely made sure they checked all the boxes. They're kind of like ESPN is now. Actually, and they're not. ESPN doesn't want to check all the boxes. They want to get rid of all the white guys. They only want to check a couple boxes.
And the white women, too.
Yeah, that's true.
That's not good enough anymore.
Good point. If you're a black woman in college, 20, 21 years old, and you're thinking about a career in the media, don't you look at ESPN and say, I just have to, be able to stand up and
Sure.
walk, chew gum.
Cry on cue. We talked. I listened to your show yesterday. I'm a big fan, and I heard you guys talk about Malika Andrews, how she wears the mask whenever she's on. We talked about her on this show, I think in like June or July when the NBA came back. It was whenever the Breonna Taylor verdict came out, right, and she cried. Yeah. She cried on air during that whole segment, like on command. She's like, "That could have been me." It's like, oh my God, this child was just promoted over Rachel Nichols.
And she was alone in the arena in the bubble every night doing a report, masked up, muzzled. And I'm like, you're not near anyone. You're 24 years old. 25 years old she was last year. How about you just let us hear what you have to say? I didn't know whether she was good or bad at the job because I couldn't really tell. But now she's their lead sideline reporter because she's just so talented. I think that's what it is, girl.
It has nothing to do with the fact that she's very easy on the eyes or her name is Malika and it's ESPN. That has nothing to do with any of this.
Just a coincidence and nothing to do with the fact that Maria Taylor is going to get $8 million a year any day now, which is going to be an amazing development. Maria Taylor's not bad, but she's not great. She's not a star. She doesn't stand out. She's just
who's the star? How do you become a star as a sideline reporter anyway? What differentiates one great person from another?
She's not a sideline reporter anymore, Turtle Boy. She's a host.
Whatever. Oh,
she's been promoted. It's a good question. I mean, I think sideline reporters have to ask, original, different questions to get something out of people. Like Tom Rinaldi was good at it. He'd have some thoughtful question to get a golfer to start talking to him. It's not easy, but I shouldn't say it's not easy. It is easy. But I think the hard part would be, you're right, to stand out. I think most of them are average, forgettable. They don't make $8 million a year unless, of course, they are the new face of the franchise.
Yeah. I mean, the best part was Rachel Nichols was cool with it as long as somebody else lost their job at her expense. That's basically what she was saying. Yeah, if they want to do it for diversity, fine, whatever. Just not this job.
Just admit it too. I mean, she was right. Obviously, she sounded a little
She's a hypocrite. She's a hypocrite, Jerry. She got exactly what was coming to her. That statement said it all. She basically said, I'm okay with people losing their job, just not my job, because, right. And that sums it up, right? Like, what I say is put the quit in equity. If you don't want your job, quit and give it up for a black person. I don't want to hear about any of this nonsense about we need more diversity if you're not willing to give up your seat for a black person.
And she said the reason she ascended to the level she was at is she just outworked everybody. And she would have made it even further, but for the Trump supporting white conservative guys in management at ESPN, as if there's a single one of those, but they're the ones that held her back. Trump supporting white conservatives. So basically, she alienated everybody with her little private conversation with LeBron's agent. So I'm with you. No sympathy for Rachel Nichols. It's kind of fun. I'd like to just watch the whole thing burn. That's going to be fun. It's going to get worse too, because Maria Taylor is going to get her $8 million a year, and then you're going to hear all kinds of anonymous people saying that's ridiculous. She doesn't deserve it. I can't wait. It's fun to watch. The super wokesters kind of devour each other, but that will be fun. But you know what else is going to be fun, Turtle Boy and Alice? Watching this showdown. This is better. The Stanley Cup playoffs are over. If you missed it, Tampa won again. Ever since Tom Brady went to Tampa, Tampa can't lose. They just
champions. This is a third parade in 9 months.
You know what? They would win the NBA title if only they had an NBA team. That's the only thing holding them back from winning.
They do. They have the Raptors played there this year.
Oh, that's true. So maybe next year. But actually, the Rays didn't win. They just went to the World Series. But the Bucks and the Lightning have won twice since Tom Brady went there. So he is carrying that whole city on his back. But the NBA Finals is kind of, I don't know, it's not great. The Suns, Bucks. I mean, nobody's really into it.
I'm into it. I think it's great. I mean, for once, the NBA is watchable. It was competitive, Jerry. It's great. You don't think it's great to see Chris Paul in the NBA Finals?
It doesn't do much for me, but it's one game. I'll watch. I'll see if I can get hooked. But I'm making the point that it's not going to get great ratings either. You know that
it's not.
And neither is the Olympics. And I'm going to get to this a little later. But the Olympics is potentially going to be the worst Olympics for ratings, for interest. It's across the other side of the world. And Tokyo made an announcement yesterday, I believe, because they had a little spike in COVID and they're not vaccinated. They may not allow any fans, which will just make it seem so lifeless when you watch and there are no fans. I mean, these are going to be in big stadiums too, like track and field with no fans. But
gymnastics is just going to be an empty arena.
That's the word. That's the word out of Tokyo today. We got 2 more weeks. But my question is, do you think they'll ban Bruce Springsteen from going to watch his daughter in the show jumping competition?
No, probably not. He's going to get special privileges, I think.
I'm going to guess Bruce will find his way in, and he probably won't wear his mask because he's another one of those elitist, leftist hypocrites. And we will get to John Kerry. But first, we have to get to, I think, the best competition, the best showdown of the summer. And it was coming to a boil last night, and it's going to continue. And that is Tucker versus everyone. Tucker versus the deep state, Tucker versus the intelligence community, and Tucker versus the left in general, the blue checkmark left out there. Not just the left. There's a lot of people, never Trumpers who hate Tucker. He is the voice of the resistance ever since Donald Trump went away 6 months ago, and they tried to make the white supremacists the villains. That didn't really fly since there aren't any. But Tucker he's there every night, and he is goes right to the edge. The thing I like about Tucker is you can tell that he thinks about certain things he should say. But when he talked about General Milley, he called him a pig.
Where did that come from?
And I'm thinking most TV guys, talking heads with teleprompters and people would go to the edge and then pull back. They would say, I can't go to that, to that length, and mocking and insulting this.
They might say he's a fraud. He's a lot of things. He's just like, he's a pig. He's so stupid.
He called him stupid. He called him a pig, and it just took off. It went viral. And it generally, these things end up he ends up winning these moments because there were people like General Barry McCaffrey who said, this guy should be fired for insulting a general like that. And then 5 minutes later, people are digging up Barry McCaffrey's tweets about Trump, where he called him everything stupid and all kinds of nasty things. And there was was he not fired or even called out by most of the media? It was just accepted. That's what you call Trump, the commander in chief, the head of the military. But you can't call Milley this woke fraud who was bought into this whole current culture in Washington just to keep his job. Can't call him a pig. But
No.
But Tucker did, and it wasn't just off the cuff. He knew what he was doing, as he generally does. Well, last week, as we talked about, he said the NSA was spying on him, and he had proof. He talked to sources. They had emails that the source read back the content to Tucker, and Tucker said only he would know what was in it. So clearly they were doing it. And he also said that they were going to name him, which is illegal, like use his name. Like you can spy on an American journalist who is talking to some foreign actor, but you can't unmask the journalist. You can just say a journalist was talking to, operatives in Russia about interviewing Putin, which, as Alice pointed out earlier, MSNBC interviewed Putin. When was it?
Like a couple months ago. Yeah.
Yeah. And they didn't name anyone at MSNBC. They just said that people at the network report. I don't even think they named the network. They just said American journalist. They
didn't leak any of their emails. None of their emails ended up in the hands of any newspapers in Washington, D.C. As far as I know.
They knew, and NBC people were talking to Putin, but they didn't feed it, leak it to anyone. Tucker said last week, and this was amazing, that they weren't just reading his emails and texts, but they were going to leak it to try to destroy him. So he went to the next step. He went to another level. They did this for the purpose of destroying him. The man who, again, is the voice of the resistance, is the one more than anyone who is pushing back against this current regime. I thought it might take a while for him to get vindicated, for this to break like it did yesterday, when we found out that they fed it to Axios. I believe it was the Jonathan Swan, right? The guy who was somehow involved in everything for Axios. I've never actually read him or watched him except on clips, but he is a player. And they fed it to him, and they used Tucker's name, and they revealed Tucker was talking to people in Russia about interviewing Putin. Now, this is just a start. That means that means he was right. That means they were lying. I shouldn't say they were lying because they never actually denied it. That's the funny thing. The NSA came out and said Tucker's not a target of our surveillance. They never said we don't have his private communication. So any reporter who says the NSA denied Tucker's claim is lying. They know they didn't actually deny it, which to me was an admission. Wouldn't you say, Turtle Boy?
Totally.
When you say he's not a target, that doesn't mean you're not surveilling him.
It's also the NSA. Are they going to tell the truth? They're intelligence. They're paid to lie. That's what they do.
And they're political, as Tucker pointed out. The leaders, the man, the woman who are atop the NSA are total political creatures, and they are they're with the deep state. They're with the establishment. They are with the Biden administration. I think the next shoe to fall is, Biden ordered the hit. Biden ordered the code red. Probably not Biden, but
I'd say he does. Does he even know who Tucker is?
What I meant, Jill. I meant Jill Biden.
He's gonna say, is that a flavor? If it's not a flavor of ice cream, Jerry, I don't think Joe Biden's gonna have much to say about it.
That's true. I love those. I love those when he gets ice cream and someone yells at what flavor. How
is this guy not turned into a fat bastard? He eats ice cream every day.
That's a good question. You think he actually eats it? He probably spills half of it down his chin, and then it melts and it falls on the.
Yeah, they when he gets in the SUV, they probably give him a million napkins. Okay, Joe, here's a whole bunch of napkins. You need to hold on to those. Are your hands sticky? Okay, we need to wash those.
I was wondering it too. The guy eats ice cream every day with Jimmy or with sprinkles or whatever.
2 scoops.
2 scoops.
He goes all out.
Trump got 2 scoops. It was
Yes,
a big
and it
story.
was a big deal. It was a big
But
deal.
Trump's 1 pound short of being obese. We know that. Biden's skinny as a rail, but eats ice cream every day. But anyway, it's not him. We know that. It's Jill Biden, whatever. It's Kamala Harris. It's Barack Obama, Susan Rice, whatever. Someone in the regime put the hit out on Tucker, and I guess they were counting on Tucker not finding out from a friendly journalist. But he knew it. He said it, and it took a matter of, what was it, a week, Alice, since less than a week since he did that.
Yeah, I think it was the end of June, like June 28, 29 when that happened.
So they're spying on me. He was right. He was vindicated. And it's interesting that Tucker was trying to get an interview with Putin, because there could be nothing less inappropriate or more appropriate for a leading journalist to want to speak to Putin, particularly at the time that Biden was meeting with Putin. It was a big, big deal. And you mentioned NBC interviewed him. I don't even remember that, but that's a pretty good get. You get to sit down with Putin. I realize you have to have a translator, but so what? It's Tucker sitting down with Putin would have been a huge deal, and it might still be. That would have been huge ratings and made all kinds of news. So, of course, this was appropriate, which brings me back to the blue checks, because a number of them.
You're missing the big picture, Jerry. Why do they want this known? Because you and I know, of course, you're going to get the interview with Putin, but they want this out there because to them, just throwing the name Putin out there in Russia, they are trying to associate the right, and in particular Fox News, with Russia as much as possible. They want to make it seem like Fox News has a direct line to the Kremlin. That's the only reason they're putting this out there.
I would say so if we hadn't lived through the last 5 years where they had the fake Russia collusion hoax, which fell apart. Now I realize there are a number of dummies out there that don't know that was all made up, that there wasn't actually collusion with Trump and Russia.
Yeah, there's 81 million of them that still actually believe that.
That's a good point. But if you're right, I guess. But if you read it at all, if you read, 5 paragraphs, you understand that what Tucker was doing was perfectly appropriate, and what the NSA was doing is the most un-American thing our government can do. It's insane that there's anybody out there who's not outraged, and it is so revealing that journalists, and again, I use that term loosely, these are the lapdogs that asked Biden about ice cream and talk about how Jill and Joe Biden, it's good to have true love back in the White House. These are not real journalists. They're pretend journalists. They're Democrat operatives with press passes. But in theory, the idea that the government, the regime, the administration is using intelligence agents to go after a journalist in effort to destroy the man in a generic sense, in a vacuum, wouldn't that be the biggest friggin' story? Wouldn't every respected journalist be all over it today, on Twitter, online, in the newspaper, on TV? Wouldn't that be a huge scandal if they didn't love Biden, or should I say just love the whole regime, love the new administration, and B, hate Tucker and Fox News? If you could remove their personal bias, which you can't do, and it's amazing. I can't think of a single journalist you could do that for, like remove their personal bias. Obviously you have, right-wingers on Fox or New York Post, not many, but you got some. Obviously they will take Tucker's side, and obviously the slobbering, mainstream media and will go against Tucker. But can you think of a single one who will look at this story on its merits and say, this is madness? The federal government is spying on a journalist, revealing his personal communications, feeding into the media in an effort to destroy the journalist. And
not once will they ever think, what if this happens to me? That will literally never go through their head. Is like, okay, well, in their mind, well, it's the NSA. They're probably doing it because he's a bad guy. I'm not a bad guy, so why would they come after me?
And think of Children. It. I know we do this all the time, and it gets a little tedious. But let's go back. I don't know. We'll go way back in time. Let's go back 9 months, and the sitting president hates Rachel Maddow and sicks the intelligence community, the NSA, on Rachel Maddow and reveals private texts and private emails of Rachel Maddow, or you name it, whoever, Chuck Todd, Steffi Stephanopoulos, any of the Democrat operatives in the media. Can you imagine the level of outrage from the rest of the media? Can you imagine the outrage on Twitter, on social media? Trump used a spy agency to expose the personal emails and text of a journalist. It would be, forget Russia, or Ukraine, or anything else Trump did. That would have been his third impeachment.
Right. And this is how you know how full of shit liberals are and what they become. They don't believe in liberal values anymore, which would mean, protecting free speech, which is very important, and a free press. This is a direct shot at a free press. All of a sudden, they have become stooges for the establishment. They have become stooges for large corporations, billion-dollar corporations like Facebook, anything to stop or silence their perceived enemies, which is all conservatives. They now support. They have completely given up on liberal ideals. There's like 5 of them left. Like the Glenn Greenwalds of the world are the only liberals left who actually are standing up and saying, this is problematic.
And Glenn Greenwald's a great example. You're right. There's a handful. Glenn Greenwald's, like Matt Taibbi's, who are former liberals. I mean, former hardcore lefties, Trump haters, certainly Bush haters, and they hated the spy agencies and the deep state, and now they're all in. Glenn Greenwald was on with Tucker last night. And he pointed out how Rachel Maddow was talking about defending the CIA against attacks from I forget who, from journalists, or saying the CIA wouldn't do. So you have like former radicals. Rachel Maddow was a radical, and now her job when she shows up at work is defend the CIA.
I mean, John Brennan works for CNN. These people do. Whenever whenever there's like something like this that comes out, like, is the army out of control? Are they getting too woke? Is the CIA spying on you? Blah, blah, blah. They'll just go like, well, let's ask our CIA consultant. And it's like, no, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Why would you think that? Okay.
To your point, Gerry, about if this happened under Trump, Brett on Facebook says Keith Olbermann would have killed to have Trump spying on him.
That's right. Keith Olbermann will be screaming about Keith Olbermann in response to this. Tucker will start screaming about Trump and Don Jr. and just go off the rails and be like, you used to be, a civil libertarian. You used to be a classic liberal. Think of what you're doing now. You're defending this deep state, which got caught red-handed spying on a journalist.
Right,
and they're defending.
He already tweeted this today. He said, as we told you at the time, Tucker Carlson was communicating with a foreign-based individual intent on harming the U.S.
Oh, my God.
See, that is kind of silly. I mean, honestly, I find Keith Olbermann's kind of entertaining at times because he's so nuts. But is that really the new take, that they were they were spying on Tucker because he's a foreign agent working with Russia? Good luck with that. Even with all the media, even with the control they have of the media and big tech, good luck with that messaging. If anyone watches Tucker for 5 minutes, they know he's not a foreign agent.
No, but the Keith Olbermann's followers don't know that. They think that this is how divided this country is. And
yes,
I don't.
The stupid against the reasonably intelligent. That's what it is. If you believe that, you're pretty stupid. But Greenwald made another point. Like last year, Trump was still president, and he'd said something or did something attacking the intelligence community. Probably said they're political hacks or they're deep state hacks, and they're they're trying to destroy him.
Whoa, he's attacking norms, Gerry.
Stating the obvious. And Chuck Schumer came out, I think, with Rachel Maddow and said he should be careful. If you upset the intelligence community, they have, and he used the old-fashioned term, 7 ways from Sunday to get back at you. And they laughed. Yeah, they do. They come after you if you insult them or call them out. And he was right, of course. Actually, this was a couple of years ago. He was right, of course. But consider that. You got the Senate Majority Leader saying, if you criticize the intelligence community, they will destroy you. And an alleged journalist, a former journalist like Rachel Maddow, just giggles about it. Like, yeah, those people, they'll ruin you. They'll wreck you. They'll ruin your whole life if you criticize them. You're talking about a journalist talking about an out-of-control spy agency and they take the side of the spy agency. It's lunacy.
Because you know what, Joe, the spy agency changed their avatar for Pride Month. That's literally all you have. These people are so simple and stupid that's all you have to do is win them over. Is just be like, science is real, love is love, and now we're going to spy on you and bomb foreign countries. As long as you believe science, as long as you virtue signal about how woke you are, they don't care about any of the bullshit you do because they stand for absolutely nothing.
I'm looking at the Federalist compiled. Did I already tweet this out? I think I did. I was going to retweet. Federalist has a story, and they mentioned blue check marks who called Tucker a liar, said he was wrong over the last week, and it's one after another. I mean, it's not just one. It is Eric Swalwell, Brian Steltner, Mediaite, Oliver Darcy, Molly Jong Fast. It's one Aaron Rupert, one lefty journalist, Rick Wilson, never Trumper, and he just basically they one after another calling him a liar. Here's Steve Schmidt, the pedophile enabling Lincoln Project guy, tweets Tucker Carlson is lying. His lying is premeditated and purposeful. It's about political power. It is deeply cynical. He is an arsonist, lighting fires of division and distrust. If not doused, will engulf our democracy and get people killed. He says.
But this is what I'm saying, Jared. This is the messaging they send. They have spent the last 4 years convincing everyone that like the right is not just people we disagree with anymore. They're evil. They're rotten. They're seditious. They're traitors. They need to be destroyed. And it's okay to violate their civil liberties because they are the enemy.
This is Vice, Vanity Fair, Washington Post, one New Republic, one after another, calling Tucker a liar. He was right. They were wrong. They look ridiculous. Fortunately, these things were screenshotted, so we know where they come down. And now they're going to probably do what Oldman did. Well, they do one of two things. Here's what they're going to do now. They're either going to say Tucker's a foreign agent like Oldman, which is a little bit of a stretch, even for Brian Steltner or Oliver Darcy, or they're going to say, what's the big deal? If you're not doing anything wrong, why do you care if they spy on you? But here's the part, and we talked about it earlier, is it's a crime, obviously, as Glenn Greenwald always points out. This is illegal, and it's specifically targeting one guy. It's not like they have a bunch of journalists and they, said, here's what these journalists are doing. They're talking to Putin. They're talking to whatever, the China, they're talking to Korea. They can't reveal a journalist's name. It's against the law. So someone committed a crime, and now we will see if there's any.
I mean, if you're Tucker, this is pretty cool, isn't it?
I know, isn't it? I was thinking the same thing.
Like, I'm like, who's probably upset today? Hannity. Hannity's just like, remember when I was the controversial guy that pushed the needle? Now I'm just the boomer guy that licks Trump's balls. So they don't really consider me a threat because, like, I'm not going to criticize the estate. You know what I mean? So whereas Tucker is just like, this guy is saying dangerous things. We need to keep an eye on him.
That's true. I mean, they had that story. I forget who had it a couple of weeks ago about how Tucker's a big gossip.
Yeah, I
forget who had it. They had talked to a lot of journalists who said he talked to them off the record, and that's one of his favorite things. And they had him anonymously mocking a fellow host, and everyone assumed it was Hannity. And you tried to see if there was tension at that crossover, because it is kind of an uncomfortable crossover. They're different guys on
completely different audience. I turn it off when Hannity comes on. I have no desire to watch Hannity. I don't want to hear about how he does jiu-jitsu and whatever the hell. Like, I have no desire. I know what Hannity is going to say every night before it. So what's the point of watching it?
I like him because, obviously I'm on his team, but I wouldn't miss Tucker because Tucker sometimes he surprises you. Like I said, he goes to the edge and then he goes over the edge.
It's must-see TV.
And he doesn't, like Hannity, right, talks about doing jiu-jitsu, or he talks about how tough he had 12 jobs and he worked construction when he was 6 years old and that kind of thing. That gets a little tedious. Tucker rarely reveals personal stuff, and he did last night. He said, come after me if you want. I have a really conventional life. He goes, I've been married to the same woman for 30 years. I sleep in a bed with 4 dogs. Sounds like the Shattuck household. They got
It kind of reminded me of that, actually. I turned to Tom when we were watching it last night, and I was like, it sounds like our house. He has 4 kids, too, like us. So
4 kids like you, and he doesn't have chickens, though, I don't think, Alice. He should, right?
True.
I mean,
I don't know. Is DC zoned for chickens?
it's a good question. If it's not, they would take him away in handcuffs if he had a chicken.
What does his wife do? You know what Tucker's wife does?
He said it last night. She's a former teacher, but I know that she locked herself in the closet and called 911 when Antifa went to his house. But he had to move.
Just thinking what I do. I'm obviously not Tucker, but I piss off the same kind of people, and often my safety is threatened or compromised and stuff like that. And frequently they will attack your family. And I often wonder, like, how does Tucker Carlson handle this on a larger scale? They must come after his wife too, right?
Yes, they must. And his kids. I mean, there was an incident at a restaurant where he was with his kids, and like his daughter went to the bathroom with some guy, said something to her, like really, really vulgar. And there was an incident in the restaurant. So I think it's not easy to do what he does. He must have private security, because I can't imagine some lunatic Antifa guy. The people that milkshaked Andy Ngo, they would love to get Tucker and whatever, milkshake him. And obviously, they don't ever have to go to jail. They can do whatever they want if they're Antifa. If they need to make bail, Kamala Harris.
It's just an idea, Jerry. They're not real.
He was. I mean, I mentioned this I think a year ago, but he was planning to move, at least for the summer months, to Maine, and he was building a studio. He was going to build a studio and do a show from Maine, and I don't know who it was, but they doxed him. They revealed where it was, and he changed the plan. They said, Tucker's moving to Maine. Here's where it's going to be, and he got a little nervous, and he changed the plan. I don't know if he changed to a different part of Maine or a different, town, or just canceled it. But he comes up here and fishes. He's a big fisherman in the summer, and I assume he still does that. He probably feels safe in the woods of Maine, but I can't imagine he feels safe in the streets of DC. I'm sure he doesn't, go for a walk with his wife down the mall on when all the lunatics are out there protesting something. But this will be good for him. You're right. That's a great point by you to think. If you're Hannity or if you're whatever Laura Ingraham, you're saying, man, I wish they'd target me.
It's just like, because he's got the ratings. He kills everybody. Like, he's what's hot, and he's a threat to the establishment. They need him to shut up and go away. They've been trying to shut him up for so long. Nothing works. All of the conventional ways of getting someone canceled, finding some shit you said 20 years ago, playing it. Tucker just feeds off of that. He loves it. He's just like, that's not going to stop me. He's lost all of his advertisers. Mike Lindell's paying for everything, and this new subscription thing he's got going on. You can't stop him, and that's what drives him nuts. They cannot stop him.
That's true. They have those Media Matters guys, those sleeping giants. They go after him every day, and you're right. Big corporations have bailed on him. These gutless corporations. It doesn't matter, because a cable company, I believe, the revenue for Fox News is close to $1 billion a year in cable fees. It's like 800 or 900 million. I'm pretty sure they take a little chunk of that, give it to Tucker, and say, this is going to work whether we get any advertising or not. That's why you sit there and you're watching the highest rated shows, and there's commercials for things you stick up your nose that like suck out your mucus, and there's just this
the Tucker commercials sound like what you ever fall asleep with the TV on?
Yes.
And you wake up at 2 a.m. and it's like those infomercials. Yeah. That's what every commercial on Tucker sounds like. The stuff you wake up to 2 a.m. hearing.
It's like the opposite of like a golf tournament. When you're watching the PGA tournament, it's all Merrill Lynch and Cadillac and Mercedes.
well produced commercials. His are just like, buy this now, buy this hearing aid. Do you not? Like, what? You're yelling at you. Like, whoa!
No,
why is this so loud? Or the Jesus guy, the Indian Jesus guy, is just like, do you know about the word of God? Let me tell you. It's like, if that guy's the guy advertising on your show.
Hey, that was a pretty good invitation. They're going to come after us now.
They are.
Or the Relief Factor, the father and the son that have that patch.
Those you guys, they stand with Sepp Gorka,
and they have Sepp Gorka, and they have
Larry Elder and
Boone. They have what's his face? I would say Daniel Boone.
Might as well. That's who they're marketing towards. People that went to school with Daniel Boone.
They have Charlie Kirk now on there doing it. I couldn't even throw a football. Charlie Kirk's like 26 years old, and now he has this patch that he puts on his back to relieve his pain. It's a great ad, by the way. If I was like an old, and I'm getting there, and I was having trouble, like, sitting down and getting up, I'd be like, hey, $20, get that patch. What's that number? Order it up. It's a great. I bet you they do okay. They could afford to hire the heavy hitters like Larry Elder and Sebastian Gorka. But I can't wait to watch again tonight, the next night, to see where it goes. This is the best competition of the summer. You're right. There's no one. They've eliminated Donald Trump, essentially, right? I know he's suing. I watched his press conference, and I like that. I welcome that. But they wiped him out, essentially.
Donald Trump is quickly becoming a complete non-factor in most circles. Like, they're not even threatened by him anymore. They used to freak out over everything he said. I get the. Do you get the Trump email blast?
Oh no, I should sign up. Is it worth it?
Yeah, that's the tweets basically. They come in an email blast now, and he says the same ridiculous, insane things sometimes about election fraud and blah blah blah. But the media doesn't talk about it anymore. He's no longer relevant to the conversation.
No question. All that vitriol, all that animosity is being channeled toward Tucker now, and I love it. He's up for the job as long as they don't,
And DeSantis.
And that's coming. That is the storm, the gathering storm. That's going to be the hit job, and collectively from the media, because you know how desperate they're going to be, Turtle Boy and Alice, when they take a good long look at their candidate. That would be Kamala
Harris, yes.
The 47th president of the United States, Kamala Harris, who will do 2 years, maybe 1 year when Joe Biden steps down, and then she'll be the candidate, DeSantis against Kamala Harris. I mean, that's going to be just.
Will she be the candidate though? She could be like I guess Jerry Ford got the nomination after he, moseyed on in there. But I do wonder if she gets put in a year or two, right? And then she runs, she'll have primary challengers because they're going to Democrats are good at getting people elected. They're going to look at the numbers and they're going to say, this woman ain't cutting it. That's why we got rid of her the first time.
But she's not going to go away. You've seen her stand up. I mean, Biden won the Senate of the border. She refuses to go because she knows it's a bad look. She doesn't want to be seen down there. I think you're going to hear a lot about a feud between Jill and Kamala. President Jill and Vice President Kamala, they're going to butt heads, and it'll be, the media will do their best to cover it up. But you're right. Maybe she somehow they bump her and they bring in, I don't know, Buttigieg.
That's what I was thinking. Buttigieg.
I mean,
he's a swamp rat now.
And then Buttigieg. I still like our chances. I still like the idea of DeSantis. Trump could screw the whole thing up, but we'll see. Maybe he. I was going to say. Maybe Trump thinks better of it and gets behind DeSantis and just supports him and realizes he's too old.
That will not be happening, Jerry. That will not be happening.
I can dream, Turtle Boy. I can dream. But I want to talk about to me the funniest stuff this week. That I enjoyed the Tucker versus Deep State, and I'm going to enjoy it even more. But it's not funny. It's serious. It's scary what they can do, what the spy agencies can do at the behest of the regime. But the anniversary of January 6th was earlier this week, and as somebody pointed out, I forget who said it, they said, how people are really trying too hard when they celebrate month anniversaries, like when young couples
say the anniversary.
Say, oh, we've been together 4 months today, and they have a little celebration.
Going steady.
A 6-month anniversary. I've never even tried to figure out what my half year wedding anniversary would be. But
did they ring the bells? Did they have a moment of silence for this, or the flags that have? Think of what they're going to do on the 1 year anniversary.
I know.
Oh my goodness, brace for that.
I was thinking that same thing. 1 year, 2 year, 5 year anniversary. They're never going to let this go. They are never going to be give up on this. But I like it because, and I'll tell you why, is they don't realize how ridiculous they sound and look when they exaggerate, embellish, or just make up stuff to try and make it seem worse than it was. I mean, obviously they want this to be the worst thing ever, or not ever, the worst thing since the Civil War, as Matthew Dowd said on NBC, but we'll get to him. I have to start with this, just 3 examples of how absurd this anniversary of January 6th. And if you're paying attention at all, obviously we've talked about it a million times. Obviously these guys were idiots. They're these MAGA morons. They deserve to be arrested, punished, in some cases jailed, fined, whatever. But it's turned into this incredible political persecution. We've talked about Viking Man, the moron with the face painted and the horns, who's still in solitary confinement, not charged with a violent crime, no bail. We talked about another guy who offered to put up $15 million in bail if he could just go home till his trial. The judge said no. They're being made examples. They're enemies of the regime, and they're being used as an example.
So much for criminal justice reform, Jerry. Another liberal principle that has magically gone away, and sentencing guidelines and bail. Like they don't even believe in bail. Liberals. That's why they have the bail fund. How come these guys aren't getting the bail fund?
They don't forget the bail fund. They don't even get bail. Period.
Right. Yeah.
15 million. I mean, it's insane.
Because they have convinced us that these guys are the biggest threat, and the rules no longer apply to them. They're basically Al Qaeda.
Every time I talk about this on this podcast or tweet about it, I get people coming back at me saying, when did you go soft on crime? And if these guys were Antifa, you'd be screaming. Well, yeah, of course. Antifa, they hurt people. They burn buildings. They ruin businesses. They destroy neighborhoods. These morons, and not all of them, again, some of them are charged with assaulting a cop, but many of them are charged with non-violent offenses, trespassing, disorderly conduct, or in the case of Viking Man, disrupting a formal proceeding, which I'm not sure he did because we saw the video of him walk into the Senate chambers.
That was pretty formal in there. The guy was sitting down front.
Bleeding. The guy was bleeding. The cop was walking.
I got shot in the face. I got shot in the face.
And the cop asked him not to go up on the podium because that's the sacredest place in here.
Can you respect the guy in the floor tells her, "Oh no, don't worry, I've been watching it for you.
Right. So we've seen the video, not all of it. There's 14,000 hours that they won't show us. They selectively release it to make these morons look like terrorists, and the media has parroted the whole insurrectionist and domestic terrorist line and said but I think they overplay their hand. And this week was the best example. We'll start with a congressman named Andy Kim. I didn't even know who he was. I thought he was the same guy that sang Rock Me Gently back in the 80s. I thought he was that guy, but it's a different Andy Kim. And I'm telling you, you cannot read the story without laughing out loud. He's a backbencher, a nobody congressman from New Jersey. Southern New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia area. And he wore a blue suit. It's kind of a royal blue suit on January 6th, when he barely survived the insurrection.
Barely.
And afterwards, he spent a moment, maybe a minute, helping pick up some trash, helping the janitors, whatever, clean up a little. There was a picture of him, a sitting congressman, cleaning up. And, obviously they made him out to be a hero because he said that because of the suit he was wearing, that he heard from a lot of people, and that suit meant a lot to them. So he donated to the Smithsonian this week. He released a tweet saying he was going to bring the suit to the Smithsonian to be displayed as a part of history. And so I started reading, going, did I miss something? Did he jump in front of a gunman and save Mike Pence's life? No, he picked up a little trash, and he says, this is my favorite claim, quote, "People wrote to me saying the blue suit gave them a sense of resilience and hope."
That might have actually happened, knowing these people how freaking stupid they are.
So he didn't. Obviously, no congressman died. They weren't assaulted. They weren't, threatened.
Well, did you see the Vice article, Jerry? There's journalists that are afraid to go back in the building.
That's number 3 on my list. I'm trying to put them at level of entertainment value. This was the funniest. This guy. So if you go to the Smithsonian, you get to see.
Did the Smithsonian contact him, or did he contact the Smithsonian?
I don't know, but they're plenty woke. They probably are all in on this, and they're probably going to have a display. Oh, by the way, speaking of displays, we'll just mention this. One of the insurrectionists, a 27-year-old guy from, I forget where, down south, the FBI raided his home, and took all his social media and took all his computer, and they found a Lego version of the U.S. Capitol. This guy had a Lego version of the Capitol, and they're investigating whether he used that model to plan the insurrection. But we'll find out. I'm going to predict right now that the answer is yes. They'll say he used that model he took little Lego little what do you call them, Alice? Little men in Lego games.
Minifigures.
What are they?
Lego minifigures.
Yeah, minifigures, and he had minifigure insurrectionists and minifigure cops and minifigure congressmen, and they had a minifigure Mike Pence, and they had a mini guillotine, and they chopped his head off. That was.
Did they have a mini AOC hiding? Did they have mini AOC hiding in a bathtub, or
they had a mini AOC? She was already in therapy. She was already down the street at her shrink's office trying to, cope with this trauma. But so you go to the Smithsonian. When I went there, I wanted to see Archie Bunker's chair. I don't know why. I always heard it was there, and I wanted to see it. But you could see, Wright brothers, the Wright brothers plane. Somebody pointed out yesterday you could see the uniform that Robert O'Neill wore when he took out Bin Laden. So you can go to the Smithsonian. You could see Robert O'Neill's, obviously his Navy SEAL uniform, what he was wearing that night when he killed Bin Laden, and then you could see the blue suit that Andy Kim wore when he picked up some empty Diet Coke cans on the floor of the Capitol. I mean, that sounds like quite a
basically the same thing. I mean,
right. To a couple of
they're
heroes,
both fighting terrorists. I don't know.
And you could see Archie Bunker's chair. You could see a couple of great heroes, icons in American history. I think I'm going to carve out some time to go there and check out the suit. When I get there, I'm going to say, "Excuse me, the people working there. Can you point me towards Andy Kim's blue suit?" I found what do you say? They found resilience and hope in his suit. I found real resilience and hope in that suit. Someone has to tell Andy Kim he's a clown, but I don't know who does that. Like a staff member, a media member. Someone says, "You're being ridiculous. You just picked up some litter. You didn't save the world." Anyway, he's not. He can't even hold a candle to Matthew Dowd. If you don't know who he is, he's like a poor man's Brian Stelter, just a potato-looking guy, bald guy. Goes on MSNBC, says ridiculous things about how Trump is evil and Biden's wonderful, all that. Anyway, I read about this initially. He said 1/6 is worse than 9/11, and other people have made that point in some form or fashion over the last 6 months, but rarely do you hear them, try to back it up. They might say it, glibly, "Oh, it was worse than that," but this guy says it on a show and then actually tries to make the case that a day where 2,977 innocent people were murdered by Islamic terrorists was not as bad as a day where 0 people were murdered by MAGA morons. As we know, one person died that day. Her name is Ashley Babbitt. She was sought by a Capitol Hill police officer. They're still shielding him from taking responsibility. But literally 0 people died from the terrorists, domestic terrorists, compared to 3,000 who died on 9/11. But let's hear his explanation. This is Matthew Dowd on MSNBC.
I was in Kentucky. I decided to go to Lincoln's birthplace and his boyhood home. And I was reflecting about it because one of the things Lincoln said was, America will never be destroyed from outside. America will destroy itself. And I think that's what I fear about right now. And one of the things, if you think about this, what would happen if after 9/11 we had done nothing? We had done nothing. Right. Think about that. If we had done nothing after 9/11. And to me, though there was less loss of life on January 6th, January 6th was worse than 9/11 because it's continued to rip our country apart and give permission for people to pursue autocratic means. And so I think we're at a much worse place than we've been. And as I've said, I think to you before, I think we're in the most perilous point in time since 1861 in the advent of the Civil War.
I mean, is anyone there, like at MSNBC, or is his wife there, or does he have an agent or anything who can pull him aside and saying, that is the most ridiculous thing an American journalist has ever said? I mean,
it's also offensive to people who died in 9/11.
It's a good point. And there's plenty of them, or not them, plenty of their family members, their survivors. And consider, he's talking about the after effects, the what happened after, January 6th. It's talking about no one taking responsibility or we're not doing anything about it. Literally, the people most responsible are in jail still, in solitary confinement. No formal charges yet, no court dates, no bail. The people who did it, who kicked in the windows and doors, are still in solitary. And he says, we're not doing anything about it. But consider this, the after effects of the two events, the fallout. Well, January 6th, obviously, Biden took office and they cracked down on all dissent and all MAGA people, and they put them in jail, and they kicked people off social media and all that. They did a hell of a lot to the people responsible. After 9/11, we went to war, a war that lasted 20 years, a war that's technically still going on, that ends in 2 months. We went to war. Thousands died. Billions in destruction. 2 towers came down. The whole neighborhood came down. Billions and billions in destruction was done by the terrorists. And this absolute clown, who should be wearing a big red nose and clown feet when he goes on TV, he's a joke, says January 6th was worse than 9/11. And he says, I'll tell you why.
And Joy Reid nodded.
Right. It takes some real doing to be on a show with just you and Joy Reid, and you're the crazy one. That's pretty.
Sure, they've said it's worse than the Civil War because the Confederacy never broached the Capitol. This is the President Biden said that. Biden said that.
Worse than the Civil War, where 618,000 men died. 600,000. On January 6th, 0 men died. 1 woman, veteran, protester, trespasser, shot dead by a cop. 1. Civil War, 600,000.
But Gerry, here's the thing. So I have a brother-in-law that we had a talk a couple weeks ago on vacation in Montana, and we were talking about this. He's a Democrat, and he's like telling me, he's like, he was spouting the usual things about the insurrection and how people die. Cops were killed that day. And I said, no, Brian Sicknick died of natural causes. Like, look it up. This autopsies. And so we looked it up together, and he's like, holy shit. It was like, it wasn't a red pill moment, but it's just like this guy who, watches MSNBC and stuff like that had no clue that Brian Sicknick was not killed during the insurrection. He truly thought that. And millions of other people believe that because they don't report the truth.
Turtle Boy, our president, the commander-in-chief, the leader of the free world, stood before the international community in Switzerland, I believe, in Europe, and said a police officer were murdered that day. He knows that's not true. He lied on purpose, and obviously the media doesn't get any Pinocchios because they're all in. But the president can lie about his own citizens to the media and everyone else in a foreign country, and it's like no big deal. Yeah, they killed a cop that day. Well, actually they didn't, but the president could say it, and just to make it seem worse than it is. But I mean, you really, really, really have to work hard to make it seem worse than 9/11.
Well, at least Matthew Dowd acknowledged, he did say, like, even though there was less loss of life, yes, less, a little bit
less, 3,000 to 0, a little bit less loss of life.
But the thing about Tucker, what makes him so effective is he sees right through this to the bigger picture. This is all about power. All of these lies are just designed to give the Democrats more power because they cannot have power without the sense of fear and overreaction and make you think like, we're at war. And so, and I mean, why do you think the military is pretending to be woke right now? They don't believe any of this stuff. They just know the Democrats are in power. Right. And these are the things you have to say, and they'll just write you a blank check to go bomb whatever country you want. It's just about power. That's all these people want.
No question. I think, you're right. Tucker will call, we'll do our best. But the third thing on the absurd of, developments on January, I guess it'd be July 6th, 6-month anniversary, was the Axios story that you referenced, which you can't get past the first paragraph. It's so comical on how reporters are in therapy that were there in the Capitol.
Oh, this is the Vice story, you mean?
I'm sorry, the Vice story, right? The Vice story. Reporters are in therapy. One reporter said he was there covering the Capitol for 15 years and he can't go back. He was so in love with the Capitol, he called it his girlfriend. It was his girlfriend. That's what he called the Capitol, but he can't go back after the insurrection because it's so traumatic. And they said many of them are in therapy, and some reporters are still having trouble sleeping.
I mean, it might be the closest thing to he's been inside in quite some time. So it actually might be a girlfriend to him. I mean, based on I mean, this is embarrassing. This is humiliating for them to throw themselves out there like that and admit, yes, I am such a freaking fragile child that this thing has traumatized me. It's cool. Being a victim is cool now. And that's the problem.
And they're working with people who cover, wars, who have been to Afghanistan and Iraq and other, Kosovo and other. There are people, still in the Washington press corps who've done that, who've been to these dangerous places, and they say, "Oh, I was in the Capitol when some crazy MAGA guy, swung from the balcony. I'm never going to get over it. It is embarrassing, and someone has to hold up a mirror and say, it's not about you. It's really not. And if you're having trouble sleeping, take a friggin' Advil PM, you clown. You're not the story here." But it was fun. I can't wait. Right. You're saying that the first year anniversary next January 6th, these people are going to go nuts. It's going to be like, the first anniversary of Gettysburg, I suppose was, or something like that. Or the Pearl Harbor or something. It's going to be, they're going to be looking back on the worst day in America. They'll make it worse than any day. They'll make it worse than Gettysburg, worse than anything that's ever happened in
the shit the Capitol Police dealt with that day, and why I'm glad that those 12 congressmen voted not to give them a Congressional Medal of Honor or whatever they got. That happens to cops in this country every single day. They are treated like that. And basically I like what they did by voting against that, because they basically say you're not any better or more braver than every other cop in this country. I'm sorry.
All right. And these are people who were pushing this, who hate cops, who didn't care that Antifa was throwing bricks at cops and lasers in their eyes, didn't care at all about that. Suddenly they have a useful cop. They have a useful police force. And by the way, if we see video of them opening the door and letting the MAGA guys in, you want that cop to get the Medal of Honor? The one that opened the door and let them in? I maybe you do, because
the guy that brought Viking Man into the Senate and told him it's the most sacred place.
He gets the Medal of Honor. He gets the same medal that Audie Murphy got. You really would think that makes sense? And if you're going to be perfectly honest, Turtle Boy, yes, it does, because the guy who opened the door and let them in did the greatest favor for the Democrats and the media you could do. I mean, this basically destroyed Donald Trump and the MAGA movement, at least for now. So it couldn't have worked out better for the Democrats and the media than when they let them all into the Capitol. It was a great visual. It was great video, seeing all them roaming the halls and breaking stuff and putting their feet on Nancy Pelosi's desk. So yeah, the cop who let them in, he's a hero to Democrats. So they want to honor him as much as possible. But all right, we got to do a couple other things. I'm getting, it's your fault, Alice. You came up with so much today. I can't cover it all. I'm going to do Shea. Let me mention Shea, and then we're going to come back for a couple more things. We'll give you that Olympic update, I promised. But first, let me talk about Shea Concrete. I quickly, before we go here, Turtle Boy, we mentioned this earlier. I want to apologize. Earlier this week, I apologized to the U.S. women's soccer team, which I don't like them. I don't root for them. I can't stand Megan Rapinoe, even though I think it's a great idea for Victoria's Secret to dump all those smoking hot models and hire her as the new spokeswoman. I think it's going to work. It's going to fly. Anyway,
totally.
I accused them of turning their back on the anthem, and I did my research, and it appears they didn't do that. It appears, they've done it before. They knelt for the anthem this time. They showed the video. I saw the video of all of them going up to Pete Dupree, the 98-year-old vet who played the anthem on the harmonica. He was great. It appears they like him. It appears they just some of them were looking at the big screen and some of them were looking at the actual flag. It appears they didn't turn their back on him. I believed it.
Oh, that was fake news?
Yes, I believed it because I believe those people are, they're super woke.
It's very grown up of you to admit your biases, Jerry.
I apologized to them earlier this week. I'm going to apologize to Jessica Springsteen today. You know why? Because I said I'm going to root against her, Springsteen's daughter, who's in the show jumping competition in Tokyo. She's an Olympic athlete. She's got a show horse, and they jump over things.
As long as she doesn't smoke pot.
I guess that would be judged, right? Judges pick the winner of that sport, I guess, or how does that work?
I don't know.
I don't think I've ever seen show jumping. And
can't say I've watched it.
Well, consider this: if you make a donation to the U.S. Olympic Committee, you might be the one paying for Jessica Springsteen's horse to be transported to Tokyo.
It's got to be expensive. Yeah.
Her horse goes with her. Does the horse fly first class?
Does it go on a boat, or do they ship? Can you put a horse in cargo?
I don't know.
How does that work? It's got to weigh the plane down. No,
I don't know. If it goes in a boat, isn't it uncomfortable? Isn't a horse when they get there like all stiff and uncomfortable? I don't know, but I assume Jessica Springsteen flies on Dad's private jet, but I don't know about the Don Juan. The horse's name is Don Juan something, long name, but Don Juan is going to be there with Jessica Springsteen in the show jumping competition. And I said I'm going to root against her, but I start to feel bad. You know why? She's obviously a rich elitist. I don't know if she's as big a left wing nut as her father. Maybe she is, maybe not. We'll see if she stands for the anthem. But everybody in the show jumping, she's probably going to go against princes and sultans of Brunei's kids. I mean, it's all going to be rich elitist people who do show jumping for her life. I mean, she's not the only one spoiled brat who's going to Tokyo to compete in the horse equestrian, right? So no, I'm going to root for her. She might be a nice person. She might be a radical like her dad, but at least she's representing the country. She, as far as we know, has not turned her back on the anthem like Gwen Berry. She hasn't put a T-shirt over her head when they played the anthem, but we'll find out. You know what? It's good they have her, because I can't even think of too many reasons to watch. You guys gonna watch the Olympics? I love the Olympics. Sure, I love track and field. I was a track coach for years. I love it. Are the Shattuck clan going to sit down around the TV?
Like the fun ones, like gymnastics and the swimming. I was a swimmer, so I love to watch swimming races, and that's always exciting. And I don't know, but not all the crazy. They have to build up the drama. You know, when it first starts, it's not really exciting. But a week in, when you start building up the drama, like Simone Biles is going for whatever, 1 million medals, then you start checking it out. Or there's no Michael Phelps, but if some swimmer is going to go win like 7 medals, then you get into it more as it builds. And I don't even know when basketball starts, but I'll be rooting for Kevin Love because he's the only white guy on the team, right? Turtle.
Yes, there was. I don't even watch the basketball during the Olympics. I like the track. And I like the swimming and I like the girls' gymnastics. Those are the 3 sports you think of when you think of Summer Olympics. And because you don't know who the villains are. You don't know, like, okay, so we know who the top Americans are, but there's always some villain, like a Russian gymnast or a Romanian gymnast that, like, we have to beat her. And that's what you always remember about the Olympics. Who's Jamaica got in the 100-meter dash this year? I don't know, but I bet you they got someone. I'm rooting for that, the hammer thrower who almost set like a world record. What was her name? Deanna Price. Deanna, yeah. Big girl, happy girl, good American, very happy to be there, loving this opportunity. And I'm rooting against the 3rd place finisher, Gwen Berry. I'll enjoy it when she finishes like 27th, because she will. She's not that good. Deanna Price is a stud who will probably win the gold. She threw it over 80 meters. The men only throw it 86. So, you're big into the hammer. Yeah. Obviously, I just read about it. She's like amazing. And she's a biological girl, as far as I know. She's not even like who's the top woman's javelin thrower, Jerry? I'll look that up for you. You don't know. And so you could argue that Gwen Berry is kind of the best thing that ever happened. Yeah, no, I know. She has. I'm saying these people are the reasons you watch. Gwen Berry has brought some eyeballs to the to the TV, and so has Jessica Springsteen. People are going to say, I'll check that. I don't even know. Is it on TV? It's on like 8 different channels, right? Yeah, there would be all the NBC different kind of channels. Oh, right. Peacock. But here's the thing. Yeah, go ahead. Back to the fans, Turtle Boy. If there's no fans in an empty stadium for the 200 meter or the 400 meter, it's not going to feel right, man. It's not going to have any energy. It's going to be dead. I can't believe Japan of all countries could do that. I thought we could count on them. This isn't England or France. This is a country that values, money and, is smart and gets it. I'm really surprised that they're falling for this nonsense. They don't get vaccinated. They only have 15% of the country's vaccinated. Why? Because I don't know, because they don't have a lot of old fat people that really are worried about COVID. Maybe they're all young and they don't. I don't know.
I think they were one of the countries early on. We were told like they did it right.
That's true.
stupid Americans. They did a good job. They closed their borders. They, did real contact tracing where they traced every single case where it came from, and they wore masks. They're really good. That's why they don't have any like naturally built up immunity in their population because they didn't have the earlier surges we had. So
did they lock down? Did they lock down like we did?
Yeah, they were like totally locked down. They were like all the Asian countries. That's who we kept getting told. Like we have to be more like them. So they were like completely like sealed off. Which they can do because they're an island or several islands, really.
Right, it's easy to lock down when you're an island, like whatever New Zealand locked down in Australia, but they declared a state of emergency because of a spike, and now they have the Olympics in the middle of a state of emergency. I don't know. It sounds like it might be an issue going forward, but I'll check out like everyone else. I'll look in, see if there's anything interesting, and it's also a time difference, which is going to kill them. But we'll see. We'll see if anything crazy happens. If there's more woke people like Gwen Berry, and there might be, the women's soccer team might make an issue and might make a statement, take a knee and all that crap and wear Black Lives Matter shirts, which they once upon a time did. And they obviously will do their best to make our country look bad. So we'll be rooting against them. I'm still going to root against them. I don't think they turned their back on Pete Dupree, but they still suck. Anyway, all right. We shall leave it there. Did I miss anything, Alice? You did an unbelievable job of preparing. You had more stories in that rundown than I've ever seen. I probably have missed it. Oh, John Kerry. Damn it.
No.
I don't want to drag this out, but John Kerry was at an airport without a mask. Again, shocker. Yeah. He is the biggest fraud, the biggest hypocrite, the biggest liar. How does anyone listen to a word this guy says and take him seriously?
They don't.
He's 76, 77 years old. He's the richest man. He was the richest man in the Senate. He's fabulously wealthy. Or, his wife's first husband was, and he is reaping the benefits. He's got homes everywhere, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, wherever. And yet he's so needy and just so insecure that he has to travel around talking about climate change and the climate crisis and telling people they got to wear masks, to be patriotic and all that. And he doesn't wear one. And he gets away with it. Obviously, the people, as you say, Turtle Boy, as I've said, the people telling you to be in fear of COVID are not in fear of COVID. They don't worry about COVID. They want you to worry about COVID because of the control. But on the same day that John Kerry went through Logan Airport without a mask, endangering everybody's life, all the people there some of them probably dead already because Kerry wouldn't wear a mask. The same day, some kids from Winthrop, and if you haven't seen this story, it's kind of, it's nuts. Kids from Winthrop were going to the Bahamas for vacation, and one or two of them refused to wear their masks properly. What airline? Oh, this is American Airline.
American.
They canceled the flight. All the people heading to the Bahamas had to get on different flights because they didn't just kick the kids off for some reason. They canceled the flight. That's going to be a big story because the people on that plane must have been disgusted and outraged. And I got to be honest, I don't think the masks do anything. I think it's performative, especially at this point. I would have been ready to kill those kids. I would have been like, just do it for 5 minutes till we take off. But apparently these kids were a little bratty, a little defiant. So they canceled the flight and everyone had to get off and find another way to the Bahamas. That is going to be that. I can't imagine the outrage, the people just in the airport losing their minds. It must have been incredible. But anyway, we don't have time to get to Nathan Allen. Turtle Boy, you did some good legwork on the.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
We'll talk about it, but you can read about it on TB Daily News, correct?
Correct. Go back and read last week's stories.
Go back and read it all about the Winthrop killer, the racist, or maybe the racist guy, Nathan Allen, who shot dead 2 African Americans in Winthrop a couple weeks ago. Turtle Boy's got all the details on TB Daily News. You can also follow my Turtle Boy Sports, correct?
On Twitter at Dr. Turtle Boy. You can follow me, or on Facebook, Turtle Boy Sports.
At Dr. Turtle Boy. All right, Turtle Boy, thanks. And thanks to you, Alice. Terrific job. I see you have your little Gerry Callahan t-shirt on. That's it's not about me. That's about the chicken, the leader of the chickens.
Our chickens.
The leading chicken at the Shattuck Ranch. How many chickens do you have?
Right now, we have 3 grown-up chickens and 3 baby chickens.
You going to eat them, or they just lay eggs?
They lay eggs.
And you eat the
So
egg.
we did have a rooster, but he was mean. We weren't supposed to have a rooster. When you get the baby chicks, they're not supposed to be. So we did eat him. I took care of that problem.
You ate the rooster? I didn't think we even ate roosters.
You can, because he wasn't that grown up. So he wasn't tough yet. Like the rooster.
You actually killed him yourself.
Mm-hmm. I
bought
aspire to be a homesteader, Jay. I'm gonna take
You
the
smoke-
Barbarella podcast out into the woods of Maine, like Tucker Carlson, and
You have lots of canned meat in the basement and condensed milk.
Oh yeah, we're ready to go. We're ready.
You're preppers. But you bought a device on Amazon to break the chicken's necks, correct?
I actually just bought like a really sharp knife. Well, and then you have like a cone that you put the chicken in because it keeps him calm, so he doesn't know what's happening.
And when you cut their heads off, do they run around like chickens with their heads cut off?
No, because he was in the cone. So and
someday I'm gonna have to stop by the ranch and see little Gerry Callahan. You got him there on the t-shirt. I should have worn mine. I didn't wear mine today. I will next time. But I appreciate it, Alice. Thanks very much. Thanks to
Thank you, Gerry.
DCU and Allied Paving, Shea Concrete. Thanks to everybody for listening and watching. Where were we? I didn't even know. Where were we? YouTube today?
We were on YouTube and Facebook Live.
Thanks for all the commenters. I didn't really have time to read them. Did you read them? Were there any good comments?
I read some of them. There were some good commenters. Can check them out after too.
I will check them out after, but appreciate everybody for watching and listening. And if you'd like, go to Apple Podcasts. I try to mention this, every Thursday, but go to Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star rating, leave a review. We finally made it over 4,000. We have 4,000 and something reviews. You can do that anytime. We appreciate it. I'm Gerry Callahan. This is the Callahan Podcast, and I will talk to you again real soon.